Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Welcome to the Lee Summit Sign Department. We are going to walk you through our process from start to finish. We make signs as needed here. It's not like we just go out into the field and place a speed limit sign here, no parking here. Our traffic engineers, they go through and they'll do field studies. They'll send us down an engineering work order for us to go out, place new signs or remove signs as needed. Coming from the material, our blanks come in and they're just aluminum blanks. We can put our white, our red, our fluorescent yellow, green, whatever. And basically what it looks like is just that there. Throw it up into the roller. And once we got it covered, take it to our work table here, and Tim will cut the corners, cut all the access off to where it's lined up right. As far as the plotter and the software that we use, there's a street name sign there, and he's gonna go ahead and print that out on the plotter so you can see the plotter and how it operates and runs. There's standards for the height, even just on letters on the sign blank. Basically what we have on the computer there is it's pretty much set up to those. And it goes through, it's got a very small but sharp needle that goes through and cuts everything out, letter by letter. Once that's done cutting, our next stage would be bringing it over here. Currently picking out the sign letters right now. We call it weeding or picking or however you want to call it. Next, putting it on the transfer tape. Then after it's taped, we bring it over to the roller. That's where we apply it to the actual sign blank. And we'll roll it through one time just to get the air bubbles out. And the last stage is basically just taking the transfer tape off the front of it. And there's a finished product of the street name sign. We'll take you out to the field and show you our process that we go through. We're gonna go out and follow our sign guys and get something installed for you. This is where we check our underground utilities. Tim, you got AT&T?
AT&T's back here.
Evergy, Google, so we should be good to go. We normally put all of our stuff together out in the field. Then once the base is installed, we'll go ahead and put the post in there. We've come up to perfect. And that's how we do it. Simple. Quick.
Have you ever been driving around Lee Summit and wondered what's that going to be? What's being built there? Wow, that went up fast. The Development Minute is here to help, highlighting some of the newest projects in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen is coming to the former Lion's Choice at Summit Orchards. The fast food chain known for its fried chicken and spicy chicken sandwiches is scheduled to open in early 2025. Local authentic Mexican restaurant El Toro Loco is coming to Summit Woods Crossing Shopping Center. The restaurant will occupy the former On the Border location and offer dishes like street tacos, enchiladas, and fajitas. El Toro Loco will be opening in early 2025. Pho Noodle Go had a soft opening where the former Pepper Jack's Grill was located in Summit Woods Crossing. The establishment is currently serving a selection of pho noodle soup, soups, appetizers, and daily specials. Pho Noodle Go will fully open in 2025. The Quick Trip located at 1001 Southwest Blue Parkway has begun its redevelopment. The squeaky clean car wash is being demolished to accommodate a new 5,300 square foot QT building and a planned phased rebuild. The current location will remain open during construction. The new QT will open in 2025. Discovery Park, the 3.9 million square foot mixed-use project located off of Northwest Colburn Road and Northeast Douglas Street, is underway, and its first phase, the Village, is being graded. Town Place Suites Hotel by Marriott will be one of the first builds coming to the Village. The hotel will feature spacious rooms with amenities including full kitchens.
That's it for the Development Minute. For more about upcoming projects, visit cityofls.net.
It's extremely rewarding overall. Just the fact of working with other council people and other volunteer commission members that are so involved and care so much about making this community better. It sort of kind of lifts your own spirits by being involved in that kind of environment with other people like that. For many years, I was a typical resident, raising a family, going to work, in many cases leaving the city for employment, and went through a leadership class through the chamber, learned a lot about our city and learned about all the great amenities and resources we have, and was asked if I was interested in volunteering on a commission. I said yes, and kind of the rest is history. I've just completed my third year on city council, and so looking forward to finishing strong with this first term, and look forward to continuing to serve this community. My thing is there's so many talented people in this community that believe in so many different initiatives, and for me, one of the big reasons why I decided to run was that as a residential taxpayer, I felt that we can always increase the business tax base of our community, and that's kind of been a big part of my involvement on city council, is to encourage and promote and make it easier for development to occur, commercial development to occur in our community, to increase that tax base and diversify that tax base. And so I think we've made significant strides the last few years. We've had a collective great group of council members and mayor where we've really truly accomplished a lot of things that there were somewhat kind of stumbling blocks for previous councils. Working new contracts with our union personnel, firefighters and police was a big accomplishment for us. The fact that we were able to push along some initiatives like the downtown renovation for a market, a farmer's market, It's been a great experience to be part of those meetings, to help nudge it, and to the point where we have a developer involved is just a great feeling to have been part of that. And others, I mean, I think our park system, we've continued to support our park system to add a new community center, for example, that we negotiated with the Metropolitan Community Colleges. So I'm proud of all those things and just being able to help make a difference in many aspects. I love definitely spending time with my family. We have 3 daughters and they're all fairly active, in some in sports and other extracurricular activities. But for me, I love being outdoors. I love the trails, I love riding my bike, and I love playing golf. And we have awesome amenities and options within our community to have that kind of a lifestyle. This June will be 25 years that my wife and I
Oh, do I have to? Call to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Lovell, Vice Chair Hodges,
Here.
Councilmember Pryor,
Here.
Councilmember Rader,
Here.
Planning Commissioner Funk.
Present.
All right, can we get the approval of the agenda? Give for a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hodges.
Aye. All right, and no public comments? Perfect. All right, first item up, 5A 2024-6621, approval of the November 6th action letter. Can I get a motion?
Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the November 6, 2024 Community and Economic Development Action Letter.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Vice Chair Hodges,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
All right. All right. Item 5B, TMP-3195, an ordinance amending Chapter 17, offenses, Article 6, offenses against public safety, Division 2, weapons offenses, Section 17-164, discharging firearms or weapons prohibited within city, exemptions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, to revise the provisions relating to the controlled harvest of wildlife and update terminology. Not Chief Forbes.
Not Chief Forbes, so I'm going to fill in for him today.
Perfect.
But this is pretty a basic adjustment to our ordinance, allowing for a permanent permit for nuisance wildlife management out at the airport. With the growth of the airport, bigger jets, we have a lot of nuisance animals out there, deer, geese, fox, things like that, and we just need to be managing them. We'll do that by utilizing the USDA. They'll be out there. They'll use small caliber weapons to do that. So that just allows it to be able to be done permanently.
Perfect. Something I wouldn't have thought of, but it's a good point. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Are there any criminals in those ducks, geese, deer that we know of?
Any criminals?
Criminals.
I mean, it's a very good possibility. Sometimes foxes steal
They do.
eggs, things like that. So
I just had to say that. I'm
No,
sorry. But no, I think this is a good thing. This was brought up at one of our committees, subcommittees at some time ago, and I had never thought about the fact that, yeah, it is very dangerous for those pilots when they come in there and there are noxious animals and doing things that are going to could create crashes.
Right, and I think
like
people just don't realize it often. We had a temporary permit over the summer, and they cleaned up quite a bit, but it's going to continue, so we just want to have something permanently in place.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Can I get a motion? We don't need approval? Yeah, it's
No,
TP.
we don't need,
Yes,
do we need a motion?
we need a motion.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Chair, I make a motion to move to Council TMP 3195, an ordinance amending Chapter 17 offenses, Article 4, offenses against public safety, Division 2, weapons offense, Section 17 through 164, discharging firearms or weapons prohibited within the city, exceptions of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, to revise the provisions relating to controlled harvest of wildlife and update terminology. I'm trying to be Councilmember Shields. Thank you.
Second.
Chair, was that a motion to recommend approval?
Recommend for approval.
Am I moving it to, yeah, approval.
a motion to recommend
Went to
approval
to
to the city
approval,
council.
to move to council, to move to city council. Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember Rader and a second by Councilmember Pryor. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pryor,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hodges,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader.
Aye.
Okay, so moving on to 5C, 2024-6683, discussion, property maintenance enforcement procedures. Presenter Stephen Robbins.
Afternoon, Steve Robbins, Assistant Director of Field Services. Got Jessica Asher with me also. She helped put all this together. We're just doing a follow-up on our last meeting that we had about the property maintenance. And the topic we had, I think Cindy, you kind of brought up about the protective treatment. And then we also had the commercial property maintenance, what we're doing, what other cities are doing, and as opposed to what we're doing also. The cities that we, after we talked last, the cities that we researched were Blue Springs, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, Lenexa, Kansas, Olathe, Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas, Carmel, Indiana, and Franklin, Tennessee. So what we did was looking up to see what they did in similar situations that were brought up at the last meeting. The protective treatment about the residential homes and the painting that we were talking about. Lee Summit, we currently have the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code. We're also in the process of working to adopt the 2024. That should be done sometime here in the next month, 3-4 months for this year. Right now, in summary, the code states that protective treatment refers to exterior surfaces being maintained in good condition and protected from the elements and decay by painting or other protective covering and treatments. So basically, you know, paint on it, some kind of vinyl siding, some sort of protection over the wood. So of all these other cities that we researched, the majority of the cities researched also adopted the 2018 IPMC, and they let the officer use the discretion as determining if there's a violation. The only variance in this is in Lenexa, Kansas. They go by 25% of each, like a side of the house or the garage door, window, etc. If there's 25% more, 25% damage or more, then they would count that as a violation. But all the other ones do it the way we currently do it with the code that we have, with just the officer discretion. The recommendation is to just maintain our current process. That's kind of what we're going with. Yes.
So when you say we're just going with officer discretion, which I think is fine, but how do we eliminate from favoring somebody else over another with the same situation? So where's the accountability there?
Sorry. Jessica's Neighborhood Services Manager.
Hi. I mean, if there's two homes in the, next door to each other and they both have the same violation, we're going to cite them both. I mean, if there's a small chip of paint versus a house that's got lots of peeling siding, we may talk to the neighbor that has the chipped paint, but we're definitely going to cite the one with the peeling siding. It may just be a conversation, hey, can you touch up that spot, rather than issuing the notice initially. But I mean, it's really up to the officer when they go out there as to whether we're nitpicking or if we're seeing, a substantial amount of the house in disrepair.
Okay, so if this is the way we've been doing it for a while then, right? So have we had any instances where somebody's like, hey, I heard somebody across, town got called on this, but, so have we had any instances where somebody's pointed out a situation like that? So we haven't had any issues so far.
If we get a complaint, we definitely go out there and check it out.
But I mean, as far as like...
No, there's not like a tit for tat
that's what I was curious about. So if it's not a valid issue right now, then we really have no concern.
No, I mean, we definitely, if we get a complaint, we go out and address it. Whether or not we find a violation, but we definitely go and do the inspection.
Okay.
So can I just add to some neighborhoods, it just depends on what neighborhood it is. Some of the HOAs monitor this, and they are more, they're more particular than what we would be as far as color and all that sort of thing of the paint. And how much it's peeling, and then neighbors would complain in HOAs. Most of what I think Jessica's talking about is in neighborhoods maybe where it's not, there's no HOA.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yeah, go for it.
To add on to what Councilmember Hodges, I think that, as I remember, the reason that this kind of came up was the fact that we wanted to make sure that we were fair across the board, and that's why we had like a percentage, or not to go picking on people, but to just make sure that there's a guide, a code or something whereby people can say, all right, we know that if one side of that, and it can be whatever we want it to be, but if, two sides of that property need paint, then, we're going to enforce on two sides that need paint, or whatever that formula is that we come up. That was kind of, I think, Steve, what I was going towards was, and what Councilmember Hodges was then also asking about was, why are we keeping it status quo? Because there is no problem now, but we have a future, anyway, that's my thought on that.
So the paint, it just, the way we're understanding it too, it's very difficult to make someone paint their house when it could be faded, but if it's not peeling or if it's not rotted, so we're not going to go in there. That's kind of where it's at the discretion of the neighborhood service officer. We go in, and if we see rotted wood or any sort of wood rot on the house or damage, then that's when we would say, hey, there's a violation. But if it's just faded paint or not a desirable color paint or whatever, we're not going.
Well, I may have said that wrong, so I'm going to say serious maintenance issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amy Nassif, Deputy, what am I? Interim Director of Development.
And Deputy Director.
And Deputy. I don't know. Amy Nassif,
an
how are you?
acronym.
Happy to be here. So I think to some of the questions, one thing I just wanted to add is that Jessica and Steve both do a phenomenal job. When we're training new staff, we train a holistic approach. So when we have these property maintenance concerns, the benefit to having some of this flexibility of not that rigid 25% is we know that sometimes there's issues or concerns that could be involved that we aren't aware of. There could be like an elderly resident who lives there, someone who's disabled and needs assistance. Also, but we do parameters of the magnitude of types of things that are going to trip and trigger those events that we need to make sure that we're following. But that way, her whole team has that same kind of mindset of, okay, one small piece of chip paint, that's a lot different than the shutters are down, the gutters downspouts have fallen down, and things like that too. So when we go out and we look at those, it's what's the history of the background, what the type of the complaint was, what are pictures, that we're taking, and then what is the possible remedy and solution. So that way we can take that holistic approach to things and have that flexibility with how we have our setup now. Does that help? Does that answer a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what was said last time, and I understand that. I want to make sure I'm conveying this correctly. I don't want to go around policing everybody.
Yes.
I don't. I just want you to understand that. I think what I was looking for, and maybe it's all the same thing, was just, so we have a guide. We just have a guide. There's always flexibility within that guide, and there's always extenuating circumstances that we always want to take into consideration.
Yes.
So we're talking right now that we're just doing it on a case-by-case basis, basically, and you're using the officer as your eyes and to see what's going on, and that's where you want to remain.
That's what we recommend.
Having the authority to do that.
We also do proactive.
It's
We
proactive.
go through proactive, but we also take, we could get a complaint that we missed or something, but it's proactive also.
Yeah.
So, Councilmember Rader, if I may, as I listen to you kind of talk, what comes to my mind is not necessarily a code update that would be real stringent and strict, but more of an operational guideline that the neighborhood services officers are following, which I think is really kind of what we're saying that we utilize is that officer discretion and kind of those different circumstances. We'd have to think about I guess, implications of sharing kind of an operational policy like that publicly, and I'm trying to think of challenges with that. I'm not sure. We'd have to look into that. But long story short is, we could have our strict interpretation of the code, but there's a lot of gray that we kind of naturally have to operate in. But being able to clearly define those scenarios and say, here's what we're utilizing for that, and it's a range, and it's not a yes no. It's a yes and this and no this, and so it's a little bit more involved on a decision making process. But I think that's something that we could run through to kind of help provide, say, some more assurances that there is a systematic approach to some of these things.
Yeah, I
Makes
mean, we're
sense? I
saying the
kinda
same
rambled
thing,
on
and I
it.
just want
Yeah.
to make sure, because I'm a hard head, that what I'm saying is that there's just, it's equitable.
Yes.
It's all equitable. It's just like if the code is, you got rotten siding on one side and it has to be fixed, that's what it is. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying if that's what it is, it's that way across the board always, so that the public knows that everything that we do is equitable, that we're being fair and we're not picking on them, that this codes officer isn't. I always think of things that way, like how's the public, what's their perception to us? We want to be, we want to be the helpful city, right?
Right.
And so I think we're saying the same thing, Ryan. Does that sound like what you're saying?
Yes.
Am I conveying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think what I'm conveying is that there's more than one variable that goes into each one of those situations, is really what I'm saying. But I also think what we're saying is to apply those equitably across the board as it pertains to our standards here. I do think it's a really important point to know that our property maintenance codes are the minimums, and HOAs in particular have a lot more stringent standards in different areas of our community. So I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add too, I think I understand what you're saying, and we really don't, we want to be that way also. We don't want it to be like we're picking on anyone. That is definitely what our philosophy is. So.
You don't want to be some other cities that are out there on the other side of the state line.
I've read about a few of them, so yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you one that started with an L. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything on that part? Anything else?
So I do have another question. Do you guys have any questions? Good. Just thinking about how, like, some emails I've even gotten in the past about some issues with neighbors' houses and stuff. So how do we handle it because I agree, I think it's great that we can use discretion on, say an elderly person who needs the extra help or can't afford it, whatever the case may be. But if people are able to call and so I guess complain about an issue on a neighbor or a house in Lee Summit, and then it's a house that we're giving grace to, let's say, and they're driving by it and a few months go by and they don't know the background, but they know that they've called. So how do we handle something like that where it's like, no, we are dealing with it, but without giving too much of the business of what's going on personally there? So how do we convey, yes, we are handling it, not in the time manner that you would prefer, but without giving the details of, hey, this person is needing help financially, and so how do we handle that? Say, no, we are, it's just this one's taking longer because of
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly.
Typically, we would just let them know that the case is still open and that we have a plan in place with the homeowner and that we're working through it.
Okay.
And then maybe give them the next tentative abatement date, and, they can check back at that date.
Okay, so we
without
can
giving
give them
any personal
something to let them know that it's still on the radar and
Correct.
it's being worked through. Okay,
Yep.
great. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Thank you guys for putting this together. That was great.
Okay, if there's nothing else on that part, we'll go. So the other item was the commercial property maintenance. Also, one of the questions were last time was, do we do the same, are we the same for residential as we are commercial? And yes, we are, and we've also looked into this for the other cities that were mentioned at the beginning, and they do this, they have the same as what we do basically all of them. She called and emailed and checked with everybody, and they're doing it the same way that we're doing it. Landscape and trash, that's the most often cited. We also, and in order for the landscaping and the replacement of things, we refer to the final development plan when asking properties to replace or remove landscaping and trees. The research studies, as I said, were mentioned, use this method as well. And so I know some of the things have come up about, like CVS, some of those places. All I can say is that we are following up on it, and since we've been having this discussions, we're trying to make sure we're doing a good job of looking at those. Jessica's talked to her officers, and we're trying to follow through with that to make going through and looking around. And I know there's going to be some other things discussed about that in the future, but right now, our recommendation would be to maintain the current process that we're doing, and definitely would take any, input you have on that. If you have any other questions about that. The next part of it is when we have these offenders, and we communicate with them from phone, email, or site visits. Then we try to talk to. One of the difficulties on the commercial part, as we've said before, is a lot of times the person that owns it, they're not there, they're just a manager, and they say, well, I gotta talk to the owner, and it's very difficult. The person's in another state or whatever that we need to talk to, and so it takes a long time to get the process going. So we try to educate them on why that's important, and then we get a written plan in place, and we go back and do checkups, and we try to, sometimes it takes longer than what we would want it to, but dealing with the commercial businesses, it's difficult to get it done in a very quick manner. So, and then obviously the last, straw is court, taking them to court or probation.
Oh, we've got a question. Go ahead.
When court and probation, do you guys file liens against the property? Or repeat offenders that just will not cooperate?
We only file liens on properties for things like cutting grass or removing junk trash and debris from the right-of-way. I know we boarded up a property. We did put a lien on the property for that, but those are typically the only violations we would put a lien for. So if you repeatedly are leaving, your in-op vehicles and working on them, and or leaving trash up by your house, and we are persistently sending you letters, and then you clean it up, and then 2 days later it's back at it again. Once we reach a certain point, we may just send you to court and recommend that you have probation, just to kind of have a check and balance, so that you're reporting to them, and we can check in with the probation officer and let them know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Hopefully we don't have our.
I can only think of 2 in the last maybe 5 years that come to my mind, so, yeah. Yeah.
Have any questions?
Question. On your timeline, on your, excuse me, Steve, on your previous slide, what do you allow for, like, timelines between your communication, your education, what's the timeline do you give, especially on a commercial property? Do you have a timeline that you allow them to?
Typically, our initial timeline is 10 to 14 business days, just to make that initial contact, and talk to the individuals, see what the situation is. Is there a viable solution within that time frame? If they've got to paint something or remove multiple trees or do landscaping, it may depend on the weather or the contractor's schedule, so that we just try and put a plan in place, and then at that date we'll check in with them, make sure the work is done. So it could be anywhere from 14 days to a few months, depending on the situation.
I would add too, recently we had one where the person we were working with them, and they would get something done. There was like 4 different violations on the house, and they got one done, and then they got another one, and we just kept working with them, and they finally got it done. I think it took about 4 or 5 months, but they were making progress. So as long as they were making progress, we were working with them to get it completed.
Yeah.
Any further questions? All right, thank you so much for the presentation and bringing it back to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to roundtable. Does anybody have any roundtable? Okay. All right, then we are going to adjourn this meeting at 4:32. Oh,
Staff has just a
staff
few
roundtable is
roundtables.
not on here, just as roundtable.
It's both. So we just have a
Not
few
in council
things,
meetings.
just a few things to
Yeah.
talk about upcoming.
Okay.
Can I read this? So, yeah. So just want to let you know that next month we'll be coming back before the CEDC on a couple items. One will be just starting some discussions on landscaping and some requests and things we've heard and some possible opportunities for some updates and just discussion with you all. Trees and buffers, things like that for development. But the big one's going to be coming back before you for our analysis of impediments, which what that is part of our HUD funding that we do through our CDBG funding. We have several reporting requirements, and every 5 years we're actually required to update what we call a consolidated plan and also our analysis of impediments to fair housing. And so we're working on those two documents right now with our consultant Mosaic, and so we'll be ready next month to share with you those draft findings and that information out of the analysis of impediments plan, get some great conversation feedback from you all. And then those plans and those documents help frame how we move forward for the next 5 years with our CDBG funding. And also definitely will be, how those tie into our housing goals in general and our housing initiatives we've been talking about with you, the City Council, and also our Ignite strategic and comprehensive plans. So that first step in that process will be next month.
So just on that, on the CDBG front, the applications for the next round of funding are currently open. They opened on January 1st of 2025, and you can get there on our website. Just search CDBG. That's the best way to get there. The applications are open till the end of January, I believe.
They're open till the end of January. It's also, if you type in the search function CDBG or also go to the Development Services homepage, at the very bottom of the page, we have a direct link to the application as well.
And as our annual process goes, March will be our CDBG public hearings. And like Amy mentioned, in February, we're going to have the analysis of impediments. In March, since this is our 5-year cycle, we will have a consolidated plan as well as our annual action plan. So the March CEDC meeting is really all about the community development block grant.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Councilmember Pryor?
Thank you. I actually do have a question. So I had someone reach out to me, and they, it was regarding signs in downtown Lee Summit. They want a sign. I know they can have a sign inside their window. They want a sign outside of their window. They, is there a process they said that the downtown Lee Summit rules are a little more strict than citywide, but is there a process that they can appeal this?
Oh, yeah, Shannon McGuire, Planning Manager. So, yeah, we do have a process to take the request to Planning Commission if they exceed the size, number, or height of a sign. So if that's what they're requesting, we do have a process for that. We can go
So right now, I guess it states that they can have an outdoor sign, a sign outside of their building as long as it's handwritten?
That's incorrect.
That's, okay. They can have a sign outside of their, this is how they interpreted it. I don't know where they got the information, but a sign outside, kind of like the Stanley does, that's handwritten, that lists.
So we can do an A-frame sign outside, and that does not require a permit, and that is allowed directly in front of a business downtown.
But it has to be handwritten and not,
No.
they want to put on there like when bingo night is and things like that.
That would be allowable.
That would be, but only if it's like handwritten, or can it be, maybe I should talk to you after the meeting.
Yeah, we can talk after this.
Okay.
And I can work with the resident or the business owner to get them the right process.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Who was the guy who used to give the CBDG presentations?
That was Hey Ping.
Thankful? he will not be giving those to you. Because that was he's awesome, but it was a 4-hour meeting. And at the end of it, you were going, he was very detailed. He was very thorough. It was awesome because they always passed.
Okay, any further roundtable? Perfect. Then I will adjourn this meeting at 4:37.